So, my name is Eeva. I come from Belgrade, Serbia. I'm now living on the coast of Croatia. I'm a vocalist, a songwriter, and apparently a vocal coach since internet decided that this should be my very significant path in a career. So I've taken that route for the past couple of years, usually helping fellow artists and friends. But I made some video that got viral, and ever since, vocal coaching has been a big part of my life and a very rewarding journey of growth and learning. And yeah, it's been a fun journey, definitely.
The first question right here is, how do you transition from being a music producer to a vocal coach? Vice versa.
Oh, I'm actually not a music producer. I'm a songwriter and a vocalist. So maybe the studio environment got some people to believe that I'm a music producer, but I'm actually a songwriter and a vocalist. So this is my recording booth. And I also play some piano. But the transition hasn't really happened. It's just a new part of me that I started embracing more. So I'm still doing multiple things. I'm still embracing all the parts of being an artist, and that is being a performer, singing and songwriting, and also coaching more people than I was used to before I actually got viral. So that's the only thing that changed is the amount of students and artists that I'm now working with. So
That's what makes you a legend. Yeah. Yeah. Another question right here is, what's the biggest mistake singers make when recording in the studio? Yeah.
yeah, well, I'm not going to respond with the obvious not warming up and not coming in ready and knowing the song and feeling confident. But nowadays, when we have AI that can actually do all the things, we have technology that can replicate the notes and even the tones, right? So I really believe the biggest mistake is actually sacrificing the emotion and our authentic human expression for the sake of trying to get the notes right in the studio, right? So we have the equipment that can actually take care of that technical type of stuff. But we do not have the equipment that can actually bring out the authentic expression. So we should always focus on that as artists to not sacrifice that for trying to make that perfect take. So vibe is very relevant. So the energy that we bring to that mic is everything. It's so much more than the right notes and something sounding super technical. So I would say that that could be the biggest mistake, sacrificing the vibe and just starting to record from some analytical parts of our brain that are just not as fun, as not as playful, that cannot get us into that healthy creative atmosphere.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So all this that I'm saying, that is me just already thinking that I'm talking about an artist, not just somebody who's being in the studio and trying to do singing because it's cool and because they want to be famous or whatnot, right? So I'm saying this with an assumption that you already are an artist. But sometimes we as artists, we tend to get in our heads and overthink stuff and overanalyze stuff and kind of like get stiff in front of that mic. So that was my beginner mistake when I first started singing. The transition from my home studio to the studio that's full of people that I don't know, that like might judge me, that was very challenging for me. So it was hard for me to actually bring out my authentic expression in this environment, right? With some new people. So
Wow. Fast forward to the next question I have right on my list, that is, how do you approach vocal coachings for artists with different genres and styles? How do you approach that?
honestly, since R&B is my genre of preference, most of the artists that gravitate towards me are in that sphere. So most of them are either soul, gospel, hip hop, R&B, or pop. Um, but I definitely encourage everybody to listen to as many different styles as possible and explore their voice in just as many different styles they possibly can, and to try to mimic. I believe that mimicking is very underrated. You know how we would hear all the time, oh, find your own style, do not try to mimic this and that. But I believe it's actually the more that we steal, the more that we try to mimic, the more stuff that we try on, the more we actually have the feel of what fits us and what doesn't. And until we try that on and get in front of that mirror in that cloakroom, right, we don't know who we are if we haven't explored who we are all the way. And mimicking, when it comes to the technical part of singing, can actually guide us to efficiency. Because if I hear some singer doing something and it works, I can try using that same sound with the notes and just feel it out. And if I'm finding that same comfortable feeling with my own voice, that's something that I should probably stick to if it's fun, if it feels like me, right? But the more artists that we try out this way, that's how we actually start to pick and choose what actually feels like us. So I believe it's kind of like clothes, like just try on as many different styles and as many different sounds that you possibly can. Just still feel like an artist.
What are some overlooked techniques that can instantly improve singers' performance? There are some tips, there are some things, apart from, okay, stop eating this, stop doing this, stop doing that, do your vocal warm-ups. What are some, like, techniques, some unique techniques that can, rapidly just increase singers' performance?
Well, in my experience, it's usually the vowels that get overlooked. That is something that we do not do instinctively when it comes to speech level singing, because there are certain frequencies with the vowels like a, e, o, u that change as we ascend into higher pitches. So we often hear like sing how you would speak, right? It's speech level singing technique that most of the modern singing is being developed from. So we do not have the awareness that if we speak right down here, like love, right time, if I was to take those same frequencies into some higher pitches, like love, right time, I cannot carry the weight of that vowel the same way. So if I said right now, time, that will kind of bring me into the yell reflex. So
Yeah.
that vowel has to modify and narrow a little, like ah, so that ah up there is no longer be as wide. It's not going to be ah. It's going to be something that's going to lean towards uh. So it's same goes with every other vowel. It's not going to be ah, e, o, u. It's going to be e, o, u. It's going to be a little more narrow so we can be more efficient when we try to project the sound. So that is something that we do not do instinctively. Some artists do, but with most of the beginner singers, I have to actually bring that to their awareness. And when they check off breathing, right, when they are already breathing with the support of their core, right, and when they have that controlled, nice exhale, when they found that perfect placement, when they're singing in their mask with those higher tones, and they're still struggling with feeling kind of constricted and having all this tension, then I'm like, okay, let's think about that vowel. If the word is like love, now, time, or something that is like very big vowel, it's usually a or e there that people struggle with the most. And then we explore with them pronouncing that word in a little different way. Like we're not going to say time, we're going to say time, right? And it will feel a little easier for them. It will just create more space to be more efficient. So that's one of the things that helps a lot. And just helping people find their breathing through exercises like lip rolls, those are always my go to.
I got to think about it. Is there a way we can make it work without using the vowels? I don't think that is possible. So definitely we have to work on vowels as both. Is that way?
Yeah, yeah, it actually does not need work. It just needs new perspective, just awareness that we just have to pronounce some stuff differently so it will be easier for us to sing it.
That's amazing, and I think that's an amazing one from Eva. You've actually dived into a bit of things. So the next question I have right here on my list is: How do you help artists find and refine their unique vocal tone? There are a lot of voice lectures and all of that. How do you help them to refine their unique tone? How do you go about
Well,
that?
actually, that is an interesting question because I believe that they don't need to find the tone at all. They already have it. We all have unique facial structure. We already are unique by nature. There is no voice that is 100% the same. So, if people find the efficient way to use their voice without trying to manipulate it too much by breathing in a way that is not efficient, by trying to sometimes we mimic in the way that we think we are mimicking, but we're actually using an inefficient technique. For example, there was a whole generation of singers that were trying to do the same thing as Christina Aguilera back in 90s, and everybody was doing the nah! Right? But Christina's belt was very, very supported, and her breathing technique is top notch. So if you're just doing that little lifting of your tongue and doing the like constricted sound that is not supported, you're creating a lot of pressure. So the first step, it will be to just try to sing as natural as you are speaking, because that is the only way that you can actually find some room for your voice to actually be projected. So first you need to find that, and then you can, when you gain some more experience and knowledge, then you can try and manipulate the acoustics of your skull. But first we have to find space for our voice to, for our vocal folds to vibrate freely and efficiently. So, but if you ask me about finding style, that is just by listening and exploring, and like I mentioned earlier, just trying on different stuff and seeing what feels like you.
Tell me all of that from the legend. Oh my God. Most people cannot, get the sound right until because it's not because they have a bad sound. Nobody has a bad sound. Then not actually, you don't know all of these things, but you don't know how to put them in place. I think that's
Yeah,
why.
it's actually about finding what is efficient. I always say use this word efficiency, because if we can find a way to use our voice in the way that we can use it for a continuous period of time without our voice feeling tired, without it feeling strained, right? Then we are doing something right. And that's how we will find that natural tone of our voices. But if we are constantly feeling constricted, in pain, and tense, that is not efficiency. So there is no really right or wrong, right? It's all about art. But if your body is letting you know that something is off, that usually translates to the external. So if it feels bad in my body, if it hurts me, if it burns me, it's going to sound like that as well. It's going to hurt other people's ears if it hurts my voice. so so our bodies are actually designed for efficiency. So that's very good that you can listen to the sensations, because if it feels right, if the sensations are good, if you're comfortable and you can use your voice and sing in that way for hours and hours and not feeling like hoarse after, and burning sensations in your throat and your larynx raised, then you are doing something good.
Amazing work. You just keep releasing a lot of secrets. Thank you very much for coming up. And the next thing on my list right here is, what role does vocal production play in modern music, and how do you balance coaching and producing? Definitely as a vocalist, there are some stuff to do on your own to make things work. Like, how do you go about the whole process?
Oh, if I understood the question, how do I balance the vocal producing and the coaching?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm struggling to balance it all, to be honest, because my career like happens in waves. So I have a season where I'm performing a lot, then I have a season where I'm songwriting a lot, and there are the seasons where I'm doing the back vocals. So I'm juggling it all. So it's sometimes it's a challenge to make everything fit my schedule. But in terms of inspiration, it's kind of overlaps. Like my students will kind of feel like what my season is. Like if I'm performing, I will be more focused on the technical stuff. If I'm in the era of songwriting, I will be more focused on the artistry and the expression. So yeah, in that sense, the kind of like what I'm doing personally as an artist outside of the lessons, it will always reflect on our lessons and what I'm emphasizing the most.
A lot of things going. I found something on your story. The last time we spoke, like just a few hours ago, I think that was last time. And musician in 2024, 2025, trying to do a lot of things, and I actually had to repost that on.
Yeah, yeah, we should never constrict ourselves to be one thing. Like if I knew like maybe 15 years ago when I just believed that to be a musician, a star is the only way and being a singer is the only way. But actually when you try and explore different parts of you, you just discover that a lot of it, a lot of the things that you didn't even think that you would be doing can be so fun and fulfilling and so inspiring. And to me, like working with other artists and helping them grow, and it's just that is artistry as well because you're influencing somebody's growth, and it's beautiful, it's creative. And I just never thought that a role of vocal coach can give me that. And honestly, I'm still in a phase where I feel imposter syndrome because I just always saw myself as a singer. So how can I, be this coach? Like, I'm an artist. Am I good enough to be one? Do I know enough? Do I have enough experience? So, but also this imposter syndrome, even though it's toxic a little, it is pushing me to grow and to learn. And basically, with my students and the artists that I coach, I believe that we are all like on the journey of growth. Like as much as I am pouring into them, they are pouring into me, and they are challenging me to just keep learning new things and keep discovering voice in some new ways that I did not I did not before.
That was an amazing one. And I think your words tonight, like you have encouraged a lot of artists, a lot of vocalists, a lot of musicians, because a lot of people want to they want to be like you, they want to start doing a lot of things, but they don't know how to they don't know how to be about it. But if they follow your page, if they see how conversant you are on your page and how you release some information, just for free in most cases, like it's so impressive. And the one you even sharing on this talk show tonight is an amazing one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that experience is definitely giving me some different type of approach to coaching because I'm literally coaching from the perspective of an artist, because there are a lot of great coaches out there who have amazing knowledge, but their experience as an artist on a stage is rather limited because they've been either in schools
exactly.
most of their lives and they took a career into more of that educational route, which I believe that is something that I'm now trying to balance because I haven't had formal education when it comes to the voice. I did that out of passion for learning about the voice. So I'm trying to like balance that out, and I really am trying and learning as much as I can from all these techniques like complete vocal technique, speech level singing. I've always been into that, but now that I'm doing also educating other people, now I'm feeling like I just keep need to keep upgrading that knowledge. So yeah, so with the combination of my experience, I believe it's giving me a superpower because like you really need both, like experience and the knowledge, because sometimes we as singers, we understand what we are doing, but it's sometimes challenging to translate that knowledge to another person, right? It just requires different methodology. So with me, it was just exploring all these silly, goofy sounds that work on most people. But now I feel like I have to keep expanding my arsenal of sounds because a lot of people would feel very, it would feel very efficient for them to sing if I give them sounds like nay, 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 mum, 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 and like those most common ones like lip rolls. But with some other groups of people, the same sounds do not work because they cannot produce them. And then I have to keep finding sounds that actually feel easy for them, and they are triggering them into placing their sound right in their mask without feeling like they're struggling for it. So, and recognizing what a particular artist is struggling with, right? Is it the breathing technique? Is it the placement? Is it the vowels? Like, all that stuff is something that you as a singer alone cannot always recognize. I do that instinctively with a lot of success, and I think I've been more lucky to have that instinct so strong. But it also requires a lot of knowledge, and the more knowledge that I get, the easier it and faster the progress with my artist gets.
Yeah. So fast forward to, yeah, you mentioned something last time that, some people, they were trying to study music, they were trying to go to school to make sure things are actually better as an artist and all of that. Do you think going to school to study music is like, knowing music theory, like, let me just generalize it, do you think
Oh
going
no, that is your superpower. That is your superpower.
to
Like
just
knowing the technical side of everything, that with the combination with the talent is unbeatable. I've only had elementary music school, so but I'm a very curious person. So even though I don't have formal education, I do have informal education of just exploring and learning about stuff. I'm not saying that I'm not educated in what I'm doing. I'm just saying it's not formal. But I'm saying that it is very necessary for you to have that experience in the real world as an artist. Knowing stuff is not enough. You really got to get in there and experience it on your skin to really um to really see what matters. It has to be a balance of education and experience.
involved, a lot of people were confused. Should I learn music theory? Should I do this? Fine, I do music theory, I know music theory. And a lot of people will tell me, I want to learn how to sight read, I want to learn how to sight play. I'll tell them, well, do you have the talent? I think a lot of things like that happens because a lot of people think about the theoretical aspect of this thing, and they think maybe they don't have enough talent because they've not learned the theory. So I think the talent should come first, and you let it up if you're permitted, like if you have
It
time.
all depends. It all depends what you want from yourself as an artist.
Yeah.
You don't have to be Jacob Collier, but it's pretty dope to be him, right? But you don't have to be. You can be. I don't want to underestimate any artist, but there are a lot of artists who are just natural talents who just have great instincts for music and to what combinations of sounds work together. But understanding why the sounds work together, that is your superpower. So the more we know, the better our music gets.
Oh,
But it is very important to be aware to not go into the rabbit hole of trying to get too technical and too geeky about stuff and too mathematical about stuff, because you limit yourself that way. If you know, oh, this should not work, so that means you rob yourself of certain exploration that sometimes the lack of knowledge would encourage. So I think it's all about the balance. It's all about knowing when to shut off that analytical, geeky part of your brain and just get playful and just explore.
but I think a lot of artists right now, a lot of them, they have the talent. They are very good. They have good vocals, but they are confused about that. But now listening to you, I think they understand the fact that it's not only when you know the theory. If you have the voice and you think you're okay, and probably you just check yourself by going to shows, going to studios. You have to be a studio. You just become something, making music. Then you know if you're good on your own. I think you have the ears and the insight, just like you said, make you know what you're doing and you be confident about it. Confidence really matters, just like what you said.
That's right.
I think the next question on my table right here is, yeah, can you share a vocal warm-up or exercise that every singer should know?
A vocal warm up that every singer should know. I feel like this should be a quick one. My personal fave are lip rolls because they are one of the oldest when it comes to speech level singing. And what is so amazing about lip rolls is they are very safe to do, and they will train you to use the right amount of air that you need for transitioning through your vocal registers. They help you extend your range, they warm you up. So they'll do a lot of different things. And I'm also a big fan of the straw exercise in the water, like blowing the straw in the water. And that's also very cool and safe. And also this one, just holding a S sound as long as you can to activate your core muscles and try to like exercise your exhale to be as slow and as smooth as possible. Because these two, you can actually do them in any environment. It doesn't have to be a quiet place where you need to hear yourself. So you can be backstage where it's super loud and there's music and people around you and chaos, and you can still warm up your instruments without having to control the external sound of it. You just watch the feeling. So you can do this stuff quickly backstage. You can do this stuff in the studio. So yeah, I would say those two are my favorite ones.
That's actually amazing. I think that people have actually grabbed a lot of things from this because I think anytime like anyone I'm talking to you of coaching right now, exercises, rehabs and stuff like that. But I think one most of us we tend to love pros in most cases. Yeah, stuff like that, all of those stuff to make sure everything is actually safe before we actually bounce. And I think vocal warm is actually
Yeah, it definitely is a game changer. It really makes a difference.
yeah. Just like a few questions, just two questions left, then we'll round it up shortly.
Oh,
How has technology changed the way you coach people?
I would definitely say that it changed in a way that knowledge in all these techniques is so much more accessible to us than it used to back in the day when I was starting. Because for me, when I started to sing professionally, mixed voice was just this mystery. Like, how do they do that? I will be listening to artists and all these amazing belts in mixed register just sounded to me like they were singing in full chest voice. So a lot of people get it confused because like what is this? Like it's not head voice, it has a lot of facial presence, but it's not chest voice because it's not yelly. So what how do I make this sound? And all these mixed voice exercises were just not out there on the internet for everybody on TikTok to use them. We just don't have all this knowledge so accessible to us back in the day. So for me, I would have to struggle to find a way to get the program of Seth Riggs, speech level singing, or Brett Manning, and stuff like that. It was not as just common as it is nowadays, where you just have so many amazing vocal coaches just explaining all this stuff for you for like free 99. So I think that changed. But you know what, even though this knowledge is so accessible, people still prefer the traditional way of having a quote coach, because it's not just about the knowledge, it's about somebody else like listening to you and trying to help you detect how to fix your vocal struggles. And not only that, you have a coach as somebody who will kind of creatively guide you as well. And people like having a mentor. So even though the knowledge is accessible and you are just overwhelmed with all these mama moms and nanny nays, you don't even know what works for you there. So it hasn't changed a lot. It's still pretty traditional because nothing can replace actually the human connection, because that is what creativity is about. It's about connection. So it hasn't changed a lot yet. Maybe they will invent some I don't know, AI coach that will detect your vocal problems when you just upload your sound into a device or an app, and it will just tell you, oh, so you need to do this and do that, and it will fix everything. But we're still not in that stage. But
I think there are some apps I got in, like I use that for my student and some in the past. But it's not as efficient, just like you said. It's just for them to guide them when I'm not around, to tell them the notes that are wrong, just like video you in our door, whereby you think you have the app on your tab, then when you sing, that really is not correct.
oh yeah, we can definitely use the apps for pitch regulation. Yeah,
Uh,
you can sing into apps to see how accurate you
how
are.
actually
But
you
like I said, I do not put as much emphasis on the accuracy, because we have the technology to do that for us. Yes, we should be striving to be accurate, right? But I just believe that developing ourselves musically and creatively should be the priority, and finding efficiency in singing, because when you work on developing these two, the accuracy is just a consequence of that. Because if you really focus on your talent and on your musicianship, your ear just gets better. You just start hearing stuff more precisely. So I think people sometimes, singers especially, judge themselves too hard about stuff like not being as accurate when they're performing. And I always have to encourage them, like, you're a human instrument. There's so many different factors at play, right? You can really be as amazing as Mariah Carey, and we heard her so many times like fail pretty bad on stage and be off key. This does not make her any less of a musician or a singer, right? Because we are singing with our entire bodies. If we're not feeling good, if we're not feeling healthy or mentally stable, if we can't hear ourselves right on the stage, all this reflects on how we're going to sound.
Definitely, I think you've actually talked about a lot of things, and I think most artists that are trying to become a perfectionist right now, if they listen to this, they know how to be about what to do and what not to do. Because if the green button is not actually coming up, they think they are failing as an artist and as a vocalist. But just like you explained right now, just don't try to be. That is AI, that's computer, that's technology. You have to just know that you are human and you can't stop being human. So don't judge yourself wrongly because of your mistakes. Maybe you go off key or something.
Yeah. And don't judge yourself too hard, man. Life is not that serious. Like, we're not having fun with music and singing.
I think there's the last question on this talk show. Okay. What's a memorable experience you've had coaching an artist in the
Oh, a memory with an artist. Well,
field?
my favorite moment is usually when they discover their mixed voice, and when they hit some high notes that they did not expect to hit with that much ease. They're usually like, hold on, this cannot be it. It just feels too easy. And I'm like, yes, that is how it's supposed to feel. And they're like, wow, you're a magician. And I'm like, no, this is actually just science. And they just get so confused when they find that ease. And because we usually always imagine that these super high notes, they require all this effort and some crazy vocal stamina that has to be acquired over the years of, I don't know, training your six pack, or but it's actually a lot easier than that. We just find some goofy sounds and sing them all day until it works.
For battle, the more you rehearse on your own, the better you become as a vocalist.
Yeah, well, it will help them improve if they do a lot of lip rolls.
Yeah.
It would definitely improve if they work on their breathing techniques, because everything starts with the breath, right? We inhale, the diaphragm inflates, and then this process of relaxation of that muscle is being controlled by our core. Then the air touches our vocal folds, and if we create that sweet amount of air pressure that's going to allow them to vibrate with their power, then we manipulate them with the acoustics of our skull, and that's how we get that powerful sound. So if we just get the singer to get in touch with that feeling of ease and feeling of controlling their exhale, that's how the technique is just something that is automatic. They don't have to think about it. They just don't have to be in that technical space when they're recording. So giving yourself a nice warm up before going into the studio. It doesn't have to be something as complex as going through four octaves with lip rolls and all that stuff. It could be just a little tiny thing, and just warming up with these lip rolls through their entire track until they're ready, and then having them really connect with the emotion of the song so they can prioritize their expression, because their expression on the track and their energy on the track is actually what is going to be the most expensive, not the actual accuracy. because like we said, the technique can the AI can do that stuff. But if you create some, like, you create a vibe, right? You create a vibe, so that should be your main focus.
That,
So even the vocal producers, the vocal effects that they use, that is also creating a vibe. So that, with a combination of expression, that is what an expensive recording is, in my opinion.
and that is the end of this talk shop. And back to the introduction before we go, I think we should go back to introduction again. Yeah. I am Leumasmyth. I am the music producer, the singer, songwriter, and instrument. And with me right here, I have another legend.
Thank you so much, Leomas. I just feel so bad that I struggled most of the time to like hear everything because it just kept cutting off. But I think we got to the gold in the end of our discussion, because you really asked the right questions that I think could definitely help some people like get the more inspiring perspective about music, especially some beginners. I hope that this conversation will inspire them.
Wow, wow. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you for coming on this particular episode. And I hope to see you some other time too.
Yeah, yeah, we could definitely continue sharing the experience and the knowledge.
Yeah. You can still watch this on my YouTube channel. You can watch more of my episodes with the Grammy Award winning producers. I have a lot of things, and I'm going to click this on my Instagram, my Facebook, TikTok, and all of my social media profiles, so you guys can check it out. Thank you very much, and thanks for coming. And thank you for coming, Eva. I'm happy to host you on my talk show. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
that's bye.
See you. Bye.